Good afternoon, and welcome to the Wednesday afternoon conference call with Trusts Unlimited. This is Jim George speaking. I'm the non-attorney spokesman and facilitator for Trusts Unlimited, and I'd like to thank all of you for taking the time to listen to this call this afternoon. We do, for those of you that are new callers and those that will be listening to the replay over the next 24 to 48 hours, we do a weekly call every Wednesday. We try to move quickly, bottom line the information for you. We know that you're busy people and you have other things to do. We have a standard format. We spend a few minutes talking about the revaluation of the dinar and these other currencies, a few minutes talking about the program we've put into place to assist you, and then we go to a Q&A. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to move very quickly today, and I'm going to apologize in advance for that, but over the last week we have been absolutely inundated with calls for individuals asking for our initial trust package, and so I want to move quickly through this so that I can get back on the phone and assist those of you that have contacted us, those of you that have trusts in the process of being prepared. I will address each and every one of those before I do any other calls, but we need to get through this call first. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about the revaluation of the Iraqi dinar, which again we believe is the base currency for the revaluation of some of these other currencies. First, by way of disclaimer, Trusts Unlimited is not the purveyor of these pre-valued currencies. We're not advocating the purchase or sale of these currencies, but we are sharing with you what we consider to be relevant information as substantial currency holders ourselves. Basically, we still maintain that we believe that the reinstatement of the Iraqi dinar will occur in the first quarter of this year, 2019, and hopefully before February 15th, allowing us to have sufficient time to determine what the tax implications are, and so that we can hold the currency to allow it to continue to appreciate prior to our exchange. There is a lot going on in Iraq as we speak this afternoon. I could take just an hour talking about what's going on in Iraq, but obviously I've distilled it down into what I think are the most critical pieces of information regarding our concern, i.e. the reinstatement of the Iraqi dinar. Let's start with the parliament. There are a lot of votes scheduled for this week. There will be a final vote on the 2019 budget, a final vote on the amended oil and gas law, which has been amended a number of times. There will be a vote on salaries for the Kurdistan officials. There will also be a vote on the remaining seats in Mahdi's cabinet. The two seats of contention are the seats of defense and the interior minister. And because Mahdi wants to get his government in place so they can move on to these other issues, he has agreed that if they cannot agree on the permanent placement of these ministers, confirmation of these ministers, that he is willing to name them for temporary positions and then renegotiate and revote on those individuals or other individuals. So that means that they want to get the government officially formed. The government is also in the process of completing their work on the unification of the custom and tariffs regulations. This is important because this is a big revenue enhancement for Iraq. Right now, when individuals come into Iraq to do business, foreign companies and governments, they will convert to the U.S. dollar, and of course the conversion fees end up in the U.S. Treasury. But now that they have got the customs and tariffs regulations in place, they're going to be able to utilize the dinar. But they must reinstitute the dinar in order for that to be the currency that will be used in country. So this once again points to the eminent reinstitution of the Iraqi dinar in country. The CBI is not only pushing for the reinstatement of the dinar as soon as possible, and probably even before the end of the month of January, but they're in the process right now of legally expanding all of the banking services as the nation transitions from a centralized, controlled economy. They're moving to a more of a free market-based economy, and to that end, they need to expand the services available through the banks, having to do with personal loans, business loans, asset management services, and the like. Not to mention currency exchanges, which of course will be done on a massive scale, both in and out of Iraq. So all of this news is good. Everything's pointing in the right direction. It seems as though the warring factions are coming together and making the compromises that are necessary to get this done. As I said, we expect the reinstitution of the Iraqi dinar in the first quarter, but at this point, given what's going on this week, if all of this comes to fruition, the reinstitution could actually occur at any time. Now, that's very good news for those of us that have gotten their affairs in order, but for those of you that have not done so or may not understand what that involves, Trusts Unlimited has put a turnkey program in place to assist you. It is a two-phased program. Phase 1 is pre-RV. Phase 2 is post-RV. Pre-RV involves the establishment of a package of pre-RV asset protection trusts with the assignment of your currencies on paper to that trust package. Post-RV involves all the products, services, and professional referrals that will be made available to you after the revaluation of the dinar and hopefully these other currencies. So let's start with Phase 1, which is the establishment of your package of pre-RV asset protection trusts, and again, the assignment of your currencies on paper to that trust product. Very simply, a trust is a legal instrument one can establish to hold, to manage, and to protect assets. Trust can fall into some basic categories. For example, a trust can be revocable or it can be irrevocable. In order to have the asset protection you are going to need and want, you're going to need to establish a package of irrevocable trusts, and that package must be established prior to the revaluation of these currencies for the following reasons. First, by establishing this trust package, you will preserve your privacy and your anonymity. That's because assets held within an irrevocable trust are sealed, and the general public will have no knowledge of your net worth or your actual holdings. Second, by establishing this trust package, you will be able to successfully avoid personal IRS scrutiny. If you're holding these currencies in direct title when they revalue, the IRS computers will most likely spit out an audit, and with the potential magnitude of this revaluation relative to your prior year's earnings, you're probably looking at a full-blown 6-year audit. Such an audit would be time-consuming, it would be frustrating, and frankly, it would probably cost you substantially more than the cost of this asset protection trust package. On the other hand, if your trust package is in force and your currencies have been assigned to that trust package pre-RV, you will have successfully transferred the taxable event of this revaluation from yourself personally to the trust. Now, that's important for a couple of reasons. First, there's less than a 10% chance of an IRS audit if the taxable event were to occur within the trust. But second, and most importantly, even if the IRS determines to audit your trust, they can't do a 6-year audit. Why? Because the only taxable event within the trust will be the revaluation itself. The third reason you'd want to establish this trust package is if you plan on gifting currencies to family and friends in certain situations. Philanthropic gifting can always be done on a tax-preferred basis, either pre- or post-RV. But in order to avoid a substantial 40% federal gift tax, you're going to need to gift currencies to family and friends prior to the revaluation. Now, if you're gifting to individuals that you have no problem giving them the currency to exchange for themselves, or giving them the lump sum after you have conducted the exchange, that can be done outside of a trust with a standard gift letter. But if you are hesitant for any reason to give these individuals the lump sum, we have created a special gift subtrust within our trust package. So if you gift the currencies to these individuals through this gift subtrust, you will successfully avoid the 40% federal gift tax. The language of this gift subtrust allows you to gift up to a certain amount of a currency or currencies, meaning you can gift the exact U.S. dollar amount that you had in mind, irrespective of the exchange rate. And because you're gifting through this trust package, not only will their U.S. dollars be protected along with yours, but you will then be able to manage, to invest, and distribute the money to these individuals as you deem appropriate. The fourth reason you'd want to establish this pre-RV asset protection trust package is because it's been structured in such a way as to allow your estate to bypass the cost and delay of probate and the federal estate tax. I'll give you two quick scenarios. Scenario number one, you purchase 5 million dinar for $5,000. The day after that, those currencies revalue for $25 million. The day after that, you pass away, leaving your heirs an estate of $25 million. Now that estate must go through probate, a process that ordinarily takes anywhere from 6 to 18 months. But probate is a public disclosure process, meaning that the general public will be aware of the size of your estate, who your heirs are, and how much they each stand to inherit. So if anyone feels they have a legitimate claim against you, your estate, or your heirs, they can simply file that claim with a probate court. And that could tie the estate up for years, and in some cases, decades. And your heirs will have either limited access or no access at all to their respective inheritance until the probate process is completed. Then there's something called the federal estate tax. This is the tax that the federal government will assess in order for that estate to be transferred to heirs. Under current law, approximately $10 million of that $25 million estate would bypass the federal estate tax, but the balance could be taxed as much as 55%. Scenario number two, you purchase 5 million dinar for $5,000. The day after that, you assign those currencies on paper to our asset protection trust package. The day after that, those currencies revalue for $25 million. The day after that, you pass away, leaving your heirs an estate of $25 million, but this time in our asset protection trust package. As a result, there will be no probate, there will be no public disclosure of your estate. Your heirs will have immediate access to their respective inheritance, and the federal estate tax will be zero, saving your heirs as much as 55% of their inheritance. The fifth reason you'd want to establish this trust package is for some very specific asset protection benefits. One pre-RV, one post-RV. Pre-RV, this trust package will allow you to circumvent something called the Uniform Fraudulent Transfer Act. What does that mean? Under our system of civil procedure, you can only be sued for what you own in direct title or the value of property at the time you transfer it out of title to an entity like our trust package. So let's take the previous example from before. You purchase 5 million dinar for $5,000. You transfer those currencies to our trust package. They subsequently revalue for $25 million. You begin to live a lifestyle more reflective of your newfound wealth, and a couple of years down the road, someone sees that you're living rather comfortably and decides for whatever reason that they're going to sue you. Well, this prospective plaintiff has a couple of problems. First, he or she better have a very strong case and very deep pockets, because this trust is structured in such a way as to make it extremely expensive and extremely time-consuming to pursue civil litigation. But second, and most importantly, pursuant to the Uniform Fraudulent Transfer Act, the only thing this prospective plaintiff could ever win by way of a civil award would be the pre-RV value of $5,000, the value of the currencies at the time you transferred it out of title to the trust, and none of the post-RV value of $25 million. There will be no lawsuit. Post-RV, there's a benefit I like to refer to as limited liability stop loss. This strategy protects you from future bad acts after you have acquired this wealth. This protection is accomplished through a legal strategy called segregation of assets. And again, I'll use the same example from before. You purchase 5 million dinar for $5,000, transfer the currencies to your trust. They revalue subsequently for 25 million, and now that you have 25 million in trust, you decide to make some purchases. So you purchase a larger primary residence, a vacation home, perhaps a half a dozen rental properties for tax write-off and additional cash flow, a couple of cars, a boat, and let's say an RV. But as you purchase these items, you place each of them in their own separate subtrust to be managed by your master trust, the trust that held your pre-RV currencies and your financial assets post-RV. Now, why is this an important legal strategy? Why is this a critical asset protection strategy? Well, let's say one day you're driving one of your new cars, you have an accident, the accident is clearly your fault, and tragically someone is seriously injured or even killed. Well, the family of the victim is going to want to sue you. But remember, civil suits are about monetary awards, and you don't legally own anything. So the plaintiffs would be left to sue the owner of the car that you were driving. Well, who owns that car? One of your subtrusts. And what's in that subtrust? Merely that one car and the car insurance policy. Under that scenario, the car insurance carrier would negotiate an out-of-court settlement with the victim's family. You would not be involved in those rather unpleasant negotiations. The car insurance carrier would repair or replace your car, making you whole, and all of your other assets are safely protected in other subtrusts. Now, this is the critical asset protection component. Why are those other assets protected in the other subtrusts? And the answer is because those other subtrusts are separate legal entities under the law, and the plaintiffs would have no standing to pursue those separate legal entities. So your trust package works very much the way a barge would work, where all of the valuable cargo is stored in a series of small compartments. Why? In the event that any compartment is ever breached, the only potential loss would be the cargo in that one compartment. The cargo in the other compartments is safe and secure due to the firewalls, and the barge will never sink. Now, these benefits are lost to you if you do not establish your trust package prior to the revaluation of these currencies. Now, there is one other benefit, and it's this. If you are, in fact, a holder of one of our pre-RV asset protection trust packages, then you will be eligible to participate in Phase 2, all of the products, services, and professional referrals that will be made available to you after the revaluation of these currencies. I will just make mention of one here today. Trusts Unlimited will be sponsoring a post-RV seminar to be held in Disney World, Florida, approximately 30 days after the revaluation of the Iraqi dinar. Present at that seminar will, of course, be the staff of Trusts Unlimited to assist you with the management and funding of your trust packages post-RV. Many of our clients have expressed desires to establish scholarship funds, foundational funds, special needs trusts, charitable remainder trusts, and even some of the more complicated 501c3 nonprofit and offshore trusts. And the proper way to fund those entities is by transferring funds directly from your pre-RV asset protection trust package to those newly formed entities. We'll also have our tax specialists there. Our offshore specialists will show you that by establishing offshore title of certain assets, in addition to enhancing your asset protection, you can invest in ways that will allow the interest and dividends from the reinvestment of the net proceeds from the revaluation itself to be tax deferred or even tax exempt. We'll also have our independent fee-based wealth managers there as well. You're going to want to reposition assets after the revaluation for a number of reasons. First, we know statistically that 95% of all windfalls, however large and from whatever source, are lost within 3 to 5 years due to inexperience, mismanagement, and fraud. We also know that under the new G20 bank bail-in provisions, the failure of banks in the future will no longer be made whole through the general taxing authority of the respective governments, but first and foremost by the confiscation of funds at the accounts at those banks. So you're going to want to get money out of the banks and it work as quickly as possible. And third, the general global shift from fiat-based to commodity-based currencies in and of itself is going to create extremely volatile financial markets, and you're going to want your assets repositioned with a substantial portion in tangible assets as quickly as possible. Now, our trust package is initially a package of 10 trusts consisting of one master trust that will hold your assigned currencies pre-RV and then hold financial assets like bank accounts and investment accounts post-RV. One optional gift subtrust if you wish to gift currencies to family and friends, which subtrust can be converted at any time to a standard subtrust, and then 8 additional standard subtrusts to hold financial assets like cars, homes, boats, etc. Now, this was the simplification of a rather sophisticated trust package that we've utilized in the past for our more affluent clients, a package that had an initial cost of anywhere from $6,000 to $10,000. But a few years back, and it's actually been quite a few years now, when we decided to work with dinarians, we knew that that price tag was going to be unaffordable for many. So by restructuring that trust package post-RV, we've been able to reduce the cost to $3,000. Now, there are several ways you can pay for that. If you pay us up front, which is the preferred method, we will reduce the price to $2,500, saving you an additional $500. If that's not possible, we do have a deferred payment arrangement. You'd make an initial payment of $525, which sum would basically offset our out-of-pocket costs just to produce and deliver your trust. The balance of the $3,000 would then be paid in $100 monthly installments. We will charge no interest. The only proviso is once the revaluation of the Iraqi dinar occurs, any unpaid balance would need to be paid within 30 days. So with this approach, anyone that has currencies and understands the need for getting their trust enforced pre-RV should be in a position to afford to do so. One other suggestion, we do accept credit cards. Pay us up front with a credit card. Not only will you get the $500 discount, but the minimum payment on your credit card would be less than the $100 a month that you'd be paying us under our deferred payment arrangement. But we will work with you with whatever method works best for you. Our objective is to help you get your affairs in order and your trust in place for all of the reasons that I've stated here. Now, we will be going to the Q&A in just a moment, but before we do, and again for our newer callers, I'd like to tell you just a little bit about Trusts Unlimited and why you may want to seriously consider allowing us to assist you. Our trust package was authored by our attorney, Robert Bly. He's been a practicing attorney for over 40 years, specializing in the areas of estate planning, asset protection, and offshore planning. I myself hold degrees in political science, macroeconomics, and finance. I've worked in these areas for over 38 years, and I, along with my clients, were personally involved in the reinstatement of the Kuwaiti dinar in the early 90s. So between the two of us, Robert Bly and I have over 78 years' experience working precisely in this area, and I frankly know of no firm that can make that claim. Now, Bob and I have been working together for a decade in the areas of estate planning, asset protection, and offshore planning, and it has been disheartening from time to time to see people walk away from sound estate planning and trust creation because of the mistaken belief that by doing so they have somehow lost control of their assets and their affairs. In point of fact, it's just the reverse. Under our system of civil litigation, it's when you hold assets in direct title that you can lose control of them. And invariably, it's at precisely those times in life that you need and want control. If you've lived for any length of time, you've either experienced in your own life or through friends and family things like unexpected divorce, permanent incapacitation, the onset of dementia, premature death and prolonged and complicated probate processes. Then there are investment losses, business losses, and even bankruptcies. The number 2 loss of wealth now in the aggregate, courtesy of the information age, is identity theft. But the number 1 loss of personal wealth remains confiscation through civil litigation. Anything you own in direct title can be taken from you. So in point of fact, the only way that you can manage, protect, and control everything is through the establishment of a package of irrevocable trusts, and particularly if you have an asset like these currencies that you're anticipating a substantial increase in value. And we at Trusts Unlimited will do everything we can to help you accomplish your personal and financial objectives, both pre- and post-RV as we understand them. So again, I'd like to thank you for listening to the call. If you're a newer caller and this information is of interest to you, I would suggest strongly that you get our initial package. We'll be happy to email it to you. There's absolutely no obligation on your part by receiving this package, even though it includes everything you need if you should decide to proceed with the establishment of a pre-RV asset protection trust. You can review the information we send. Contact us if you have any questions. We'll be happy to answer those questions, and there will be no consultation fee. Now I'm about to open the Q&A, so if you'll have a pen and paper ready, I'll be happy to give you our contact information. 2 quick rules on the Q&A. We take no service calls on the Q&A. This is reserved for questions for prospective clients. And for obvious reasons, your name and number must be on the screen in order to participate in the Q&A. So I'm going to go ahead and open the Q&A now. And while I'm waiting for any potential questions, I'd like to give you our contact information. You can go to our website, which is trusts with an S, unlimitedllc.com. Our email address is trusts with an S, unlimitedllc@gmail.com. Our phone service is 307-274-4122. If you'd like to listen to a recent conference call playback, or if you'd be kind enough to refer us to someone that might be interested in our services, you can either go to YouTube and then go to Trusts Unlimited, or you can go to IQD Calls and go to Trusts Unlimited, or you can simply dial the same number that you dialed for this live call this afternoon with the exception of the last 2 digits. Rather than dialing 40, you'll dial 39 and then use the same access code, which is 739-394-pound. If you'd like to be included on our email list, you can go to our website, go to the bottom, enter your name and email address where indicated. You should be on our email list within 24 hours. Bear in mind that we only send emails out very periodically pre-RV, but after the revaluation of these currencies, emails may go out as often as daily. So let's go to our Q&A. We have a caller in the Q&A. This is number 312, area code 312. Go ahead, Les.
Hey, yes, you're right again. It's Les in Chicago. Good afternoon, Jim.
Yes, sir.
From your initial information,
yes,
or intel information, it sounds like Iraq is up to the deadline on some things, and they have all these votes that they have to make this week. Can you expound any more on that?
Well, I can expound to the point that inevitably at the last second there's a fly in the ointment. So for all of these things to go through without a hitch is unlikely. But the mere fact that they've gotten to this point, that the government has completed the issue with regard to customs and tariffs, that the CBI has officially requested the reinstatement of the currency, all of these things are, and also that Mahdi has agreed to only temporarily offer these guys up for the contested ministerial seats of defense and interior, means that everyone's on the same page. Everyone's evidently willing to bend a little bit to get all of this done. So even even if this were postponed another 30 days because of the last-minute infighting, we're still looking at getting this done in February. So I feel pretty good about this, and no one wants to get this done more than I do because I've been doing these weekly calls for over 6 years, and I'm really ready to change the subject.
Well, you know Tanisha can do this call for you. No problem.
Yeah.
She can do this call for you.
Well, I don't think the lawyers would go along with that one, but you know, someone once suggested that I just record the one part that's the same, namely explaining the trust product, you know, and then the beginning and the Q&A is live, and the rest is a canned. But it's just not my style, you know. So I'd screw it up. I'd push the wrong button and cut everyone off. So I'm just going to roll with it, and hopefully it's not going to be too much longer. But when you can do this stuff in your sleep, it's getting to be too much.
Yeah, I hear you, man. I hear you. All right. Well, thanks again. And after we got off the call last week, Davos is the name of that meeting that's taking place.
Yeah, and it's
a DOV or something.
It's a nonsensical meeting with nonsensical people talking about nonsensical things. Basically, these are the hand-wringers that want one world order, that they want global government, that they want the sovereignty of nations to be subordinated to their international agencies, the elimination of borders. And if you read Agenda 21, ultimately by the end of the 21st century, the elimination of personal property. So, you know, that's why Trump is not interested in attending, doesn't care what they have to say. It's interesting that John Kerry goes there, the bloviator-in-chief, and says that to applause that Trump needs to resign because, you know, he's opposed to what they're trying to do. And that's why I want these currencies to reval. I want to go to the bank. I want to do my exchange. And I'm seriously looking at, and we'll be talking about this at our seminar, I'm seriously looking at moving everything offshore into safe havens because, you know, I just don't trust these folks. They're chronic kleptocrats, and they just, you know, they want to get their hands in our pockets, and it's just galling them. And we just can't let them do that. And the first step is to set up this trust, which will protect you, your privacy, and your assets domestically, and then you can enhance that by placing assets offshore, going to non-tax jurisdictions, going to jurisdictions that will not comply with suits and other petitions from nation states. So that's where we are right now, and I really feel like we have a real shot at getting this done this quarter, and I'd love to see it.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one, 100%. And the last thing I wanted to bring up was that Mugabe, the South African president, Zimbabwe president, I'm sorry.
Yes.
He had to fly back home because they had inflation on their gasoline prices. They doubled them.
Yeah. Yeah,
and there was a big issue.
Zimbabwe's in bad shape, and my wife is scheduled to go to Zimbabwe for 10 days next month with my daughter and her new husband. His family's from Zimbabwe. He's from Zimbabwe. And
your daughter's husband or your wife's husband?
My wife is going with our daughter and our son-in-law. I can't go because this reval is on the edge, but frankly, I don't think they should go just because the way it is. But my wife's a trooper, and she loves to travel and hike, and she's a nurse. She's been to Haiti after the earthquake, and she was there for a couple of weeks helping out. So
wow.
I guess she's more of a philanthropic nature than I am, but you know.
I hear you. Well,
I said after this RV, no more high risk, dangerous stuff.
I know that's right. I'm with you on that. But I hope she has a safe trip.
Yeah, I do too.
I hope. Yeah, and thanks again for taking my call, and say hi to the professor.
Will do. Take care, Les.
Thanks, Jim.
Bye. Bye. Well, Les was our only caller this afternoon. That's a little different, but that's fine. Again, I hope this information's been informative, particularly for those of you calling in for the first time. I hope if this information has been of interest to you, you'll contact us, get our initial package. It has a lot of information about us, about the revaluation, about trusts. Again, you're under no obligation by getting the package, but it does include everything you need if you wish to proceed. If you have any questions, we'll be happy to answer them. There will be no consultation fees. One other thing I mentioned earlier in the call, that we've been inundated with calls for new trusts and service calls. If you have not heard from me in the last few days, you will hear from me. I'm going to be working for the rest of the week to knock out all of these calls, including service calls. So our next call is scheduled for next Wednesday, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Certainly if something of a dramatic nature were to happen between now and then, and that is a distinct possibility, we'll try to get an emergency email out and schedule an emergency conference call. Failing that, however, we will be back next Wednesday, noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. So have a great week, everyone. Look forward to speaking with you again soon. Bye-bye.